Welcome, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for coming out this evening. As part of the presentation that is mandated by charter, I am the chairman of the Board of Education. My name is Tom. I've asked the good doctor, Dr. Schumann, who's our chief educational officer, to make our budget presentation. He's intimately familiar with it, and he does a very good job at it, and then when he's done, I'll do a little explaining. So, Dr. Schumann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity on behalf of the board to share with you their proposed spending plan and some of the things that they hope to accomplish. It's good for us to start with what we start with every morning, our vision. Our vision is to create a world-class education system of tomorrow, today, for the children we have with us right now. In other words, what we're trying to do is create opportunities for our students to create and learn and develop the skills they need to be highly successful when they leave the Enfield Public Schools. And in order to do that, it requires some financial as well as human resources. So what you see here in front of you up at the top, right here, are the resources that the board has available to them this year. And those resources come from two areas. The budget, which was $64,262,157, which the manager talked about, and the IT contribution that the town made of $718,000. And so the Board of Education this year is operating our schools with $64,980,311. Some of the things that we've been able to accomplish with those dollars. Enfield students got the highest CAP scores this year than they've gotten in the last 12. One of the reasons for that was a program the board put into place called the Academic Support Program, which provided after-school opportunities for students to come in and polish their skills and refine their learning so they'd be better prepared for these types of exams, and it paid off. We've implemented full-day kindergarten, giving every child in this community the opportunity to start with a full day of school at the kindergarten level. We've entered into a partnership with LEGO. It's a K through 5th grade partnership, providing creativity centers in our schools. LEGO doing most of the funding, and our teachers doing all of the teaching, giving our students an opportunity to learn 21st century skills that you can't get out of books, that you have to get from working hands-on and collaboratively with other students. And we participated in the first robotics program. For the very first time, we had students in the first LEGO League at JFK Middle School. And we had the 19th year of our Buzz Robotics team out of Fermi High School. And this past weekend out in St. Louis, they finished 8th in the country. And they had tremendous success up at the regionals up in Boston and throughout the state in Groton and in Hartford and in Southington. It's a tremendous program that pairs working engineers with our students to conquer tasks that robots can do. Programming robots, building robots, and learning all about the technologies that go with that. We're looking to expand that program. More opportunities for our middle school students. Perhaps opportunities for our upper elementary school students, and certainly continuing the good work that Buzz Robotics has done over the last 20 years. We're building global connections. We've had 2 delegations from South Korea come to visit the Enfield Public Schools. Why did they come here? They did some Google searches and found out some of the things that we're doing. So when they came to New York, the first place they wanted to come was here, and then they went from here to MIT. It shows you the kind of company we're in. This week I received an email from that delegation. They're inviting 12 of our students to participate in an international symposium in South Korea this summer. We're going to talk about different technologies, different robotics, different types of welding technology used in nanotechnology. They want Enfield students to come be part of that. So we're going to look forward to a conference call next week to explore how to make that happen, to give that opportunity to 12 of our students. And by the way, they're only taking 24 students from the entire world. They'd asked 12 from Enfield to come. Our middle school was recognized as a National Middle School Finalist of the Year last year. A lot of that had to do with the work that they were involved with through Rachel's Challenge. And the Enfield Public School made the College Board AP honor roll. Only 17 schools in the state of Connecticut made it. Only 477 schools in the United States made it. It made it because through the work of the board, through the desire of the board, we pushed the rigor in our classroom. We've asked more students to challenge themselves in AP classes. We've asked our teachers to prepare those students. And not only do we have more students take the classes, we have more students score at higher levels. And that's the only way you can get, you have to do both things in order to get recognized by the AP for the National Honor Roll. And this unit right here is going to be part of the renovation project. This has been built by Enfield students right here in this building. It's a drone, it flies, it's still being refined. It's going to have a GPS system mounted on it, it's going to have cameras mounted on it, and once a week, once the construction starts, it's going to fly a preset pattern around this building. And over the course of the renovation, it's going to make a time-lapse photograph of the building of the new Enfield High School. Built by students, run by students, put together by students. And that presentation, when we finish, when we're standing here in a brand new building, you'll see it all built in time-lapse photography taken by, well, I don't know if this, I think the new prototype is down in the lower left-hand corner, but the one that's up there has flown out in the back once before. So these are the things our students are doing. When we begin our budget process, we sit down, just as the manager does with all his department chairs. I sit down with all the principals and department chairs and say, what do you need to make this the best educational system in the country? And they tell me, and they're not shy about it. And if I added up everything they wanted to do, we'd spend $73 million, or we'd need $73 million to do it. And over the course of several weeks after that, I sit down with my staff and we prioritize those needs. And we had to reduce it by $5.5 million. We still know what those things are. And in the event we came across $73 million, we know exactly what we wanted to do with it. So they're on our wish list. But on January 14th, I moved forward a budget and proposed it to the board of $67,463,196. And then the board went through the budget very carefully and talked about all the things that were in it. And they too had to prioritize. And they prioritized and passed on February 25th, along to the town council and the town manager, a budget of $66,187,098. Now that number has everything the board needs to operate the schools at the same high level that we're operating on right now, with the exception of one thing, and it's a state mandate. It's a state mandate that we had in $800,000 to fund and we took out. And we were hopeful that we could get by without it. This past Monday, Chairman Sirard, Mr. Neville, Deputy Superintendent Dresick, and myself went to the State Department of Education. We met with the commissioner. Spent about an hour with him talking about Enfield's need to get some flexibility on this particular state mandate. And while he listened intently, he did not, or would not, or could not offer us the flexibility we needed. So he came home. This morning, Chief Academic Officer McKernan and I spent another hour in a follow-up phone call with the Commissioner's office. And we're still working on that, but we're not optimistic. Friday morning, Ms. McKernan and I are going to another meeting on this topic. We're devoting a tremendous amount of time trying to make sure we can get the flexibility we need. But I'm sure Mr. Sirard will tell you, and perhaps other board members later on tonight, we're not optimistic any longer that we're going to be able to get the flexibility we're looking for. And it's because there are federal laws and there are state laws that are requiring Enfield to implement a new evaluation system for all educators. Now, it's a good system, but it's an expensive system. It requires money and it requires human resources, neither one of which we have in the budget right now. We took the $800,000 out. We're going to have to add something back or reallocate some of those dollars there in order to meet that mandate. And I'm sure the members will talk a little bit more about that. But where we sit is a request of $66,187,089, which is 1.86% above the resources the board has this year to allocate to run the school system. That's a moderate increase. We feel we can do a good job with that. The next step in the process was to give the board's budget to the town manager, and he did the work he needed to do. And as you heard him before, he's proposing the same amount in the budget, a 0% increase, and as he said, a $683,496 increase in or additional contribution to IT. So where we sit with the manager's budget proposal is at $64,945,653, which is about $35,000 less than the allocation the board has to operate the schools this year. And this is where the town council begins its work. The town council has to make the final appropriation. Sitting before them are two suggestions. One from the manager at about $35,000 less, and one from the board requesting an allocation of about 1.8%, 1.86% increase. So that's where the process is tonight. I will turn it back to Chairman Sirard, and he has a few more comments before we move on and hear from the public.
Thank you, Dr. Schumann. When this Board of Education took its seat, we adopted a directional phrase of everyone on the same page. That's our guiding principle for this year. Over the past 8 years, we've worked really, really hard at limiting the expenses of education in Enfield. We made tough political decisions. We negotiated very good contracts, good for the town, fair to our employees. We did the best that we could to do one of the hardest things there is to do in education, and that is to cut back on expenses. It's what it costs to do business. And we did it. We're consolidating our high school. We're getting a better high school out of the deal. That's coming down the road, but it's not here yet. I'm reminded of something that I grew up with in my brain. It is something that I learned when I was in school. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. We're at that season and that time, but not yet. We have contractual obligations that, although fair, still result in increases. This current Board of Education has added nothing to the Department of Education here in Enfield. But the costs have gone up. This isn't a town council versus Board of Ed argument. That's never what this was about. This isn't a Red Sox versus Yankees thing. This isn't a Democrat versus Republican thing. This is what Enfield does best. And we set the example. We cut our overhead, and we made this great school system that everyone should be proud of. The Board of Education came up with a consensus budget. That budget was very simple. We want to maintain what we have. Stuff that we worked very, very hard for. And not waste your money. But then in 2012, we got hit with a new mandate. You got all-day kindergarten. You got everything that the town has asked for. We set the example. We really do set the example in Connecticut. But then we got hit with another mandate. A mandate that this Board of Education voted down under Race to the Top because we said it was an unfunded mandate, and that's exactly what it is. We have a teacher's evaluation system that we are obligated by law to implement by 2015. That's not your Board of Ed. That's not your town council. That's your state legislature. That's your state Board of Education that's mandating this. That is the governor that is mandating this. That is the President of the United States that's mandating this. It's part of our waiver for No Child Left Behind. It's part of our state law, which made it a state law. Every year since I've been involved in the Department of Education here in the town, I've talked to you about unfunded mandates. In 2011 alone, the state short-funded Enfield $11 million. And I'm not the one that says that. That's a state Supreme Court statement.